We've always had a blended approach since we really sort of started pushing hard on our social media agenda. We've been keen to have a whole mix of types of content. So at the heart of it, the colleague stories, the customer stories, which can be created on site and done relatively cheaply and easily, taking content from the sites themselves, telling us about stories that are going on. But we also see a place for professionally produced content, and have spent a lot of time creating different stories which arguably are more around our brand positioning and how it's all about our people and how our colleagues will drive that standard in customer care.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural AM and Armchair news show. With us today is Callum from CitNOW and Julia from TrustFord, both of whom represent businesses that collected some awards at the recent AM Awards. So it's good to have you here today. And in a mo, we'll be picking your brains about the kind of impact of the award wins on your business and kind of other features and characteristics, I guess, of the business that helped underpin the win, and also your kind of thoughts for the rest of the year ahead. And I'm joined today by my news and features editor, Tom Sharpe. It may look like we're geared up for question time, but this is going to be a good conversation. Hopefully, plenty of positivity to come out of this.
Yeah, in Armchair's soundproof bunker that we're all becoming slightly acclimatised now.
No armchairs though.
No armchairs.
Yeah.
No, they're outside in the green room. You can probably recline in those a bit later on. Well, congratulations, both of you, for winning at the awards. I think you both made it along on the night to partake of our first physical event for nearly 2 years now. So I guess I'll ask you, Julia, what were your experiences of the night? What was it like to get in amongst people and once again meet colleagues from across the industry?
No, it was great to be back out and about again. We were just talking about it and saying a little bit different from before, in that it felt everyone was so excited to be back out again that everybody was really running around saying hello to everybody at various tables and just being so relieved to be back at something that felt normal again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our events team took plenty of precautions. There was the sanitizer on the table and things, but people, as you say, were very keen to get face to face and re-establish all those relationships that have been conducted quite formally, as it feels, over Zoom, whether you've got your shorts on under the table or not. Do you enjoy yourself, Callum? Was it one of your first AM Awards, or have you been to a few?
Yeah, I've been to a few. Yeah, it was terrific to be back and see everyone again, and also, as we were saying before, Julie, that it was great to meet people that you'd only actually met virtually before. So over the last kind of 18 months, you've met all these people on Zoom, on Teams, and you've only really seen them from the waist up. And so to finally meet people in person that you've probably been dealing with or speaking to for well over a year was really good.
Did you find the event had a very different feel to it as well, from previous years?
I think everyone was there. Everyone seemed very happy, which they obviously always are.
That's always the case.
Yeah, every year, yeah. But I think there was maybe a bit of like celebratory, more celebratory feeling to it. I think everyone was pleased to be back out at an event like that hasn't happened for so long. Yeah.
I mean, I guess we're joined by a marketing expert and a supplier, so two people that know the value of relationships, certainly.
Well, we were getting lots of dealers coming up to us towards the end saying, thanks for putting this on, thanks for actually putting on the physical event, because the industry had kind of been crying out for it really after such difficult remote communications, I guess.
Was it a difficult decision whether to put it on or not, or what was the plan?
It was a risk. There was a lot of discussion behind putting it on, but we'd had it in the plan. It obviously all depended what the government would allow us to do in the time we were ready to adapt to that.
Sure.
We did have kind of backup plans for digital events if we had to do so, but yeah, we were ploughing ahead with with a physical event from the moment we came out of the kind of Q1 lockdown.
I think we'll talk to Julia a little later about the difficulty of scheduling everything at the moment. You know, we sat here in September, and it's a September unlike any other, isn't it? So, you know, we had those same problems with setting up our events, and you know, how much has that been a challenge for you, trying to get a grasp of where the market is over the last 18 months, and certainly ongoing? It's ever changing, isn't it?
Yes, it's been such a strange time, starting from being in crisis mode last March, as everybody was. But I think we'd all agree in the industry that because no one had ever been through that experience before, there was a kind of connection, even though we were apart, as everybody tried to collaborate to try and understand the best way through that part of the crisis. But I think we've talked about that ad nauseum, haven't we, as an industry? So I think as things have settled back to something, it's still quite a strange time for us, because obviously the knock-on effect of other areas of our industry and what that does, not just for now in terms of making comparisons with last year or even 2 years ago, trying to predict what next year is going to look like is still really challenging, I think, across the industry. We all know the reasons around semiconductor, shortage of vehicles, trying to predict what's going to happen and when things will start to settle, and what does that new world look like? Will it be anything like what we experienced for the run-up to March 2020? Everything's changing.
Is there any way that you, as a marketing team, can have you made any effort to sort of mitigate against customer expectations? Because you're trying to sell the product and get that order bank in place. I guess that's been the priority. But is it still a case of just drumming up enthusiasm and customer demand, do you think?
I think the demand is definitely there. We know that. I think the opportunity, or indeed the challenge, is making sure that we are keeping our customers informed. So the availability of product, particularly working with a brand like Ford, where as a volume dealer, it's taking everyone on that journey. So it's the colleagues frontline, being honest and transparent with our customers, being really clear about the global challenges, that it is a global issue, but also making sure that if things are going to change, orders change in terms of their timings, we just need to keep the customer informed. So a lot of that responsibility lies with the front line, with our operational colleagues. But as marketeers, we're looking at how do we also go through content that's nurturing our customers and helping them on that journey. As I was saying earlier, around we're used to it as consumers in other areas. So if you're ordering a sofa, a bespoke sofa, you don't necessarily expect that to be available 2 weeks later. But we do know that those retailers that look after us and tell us about any challenges, or it's got stuck somewhere at dock, or there's an issue in getting it to you, as long as you're kept informed, then you're quite happy. So I think those are the kind of scenarios that we need to be looking at, making sure that we are absolutely keeping in touch with our customers along the way, and using and offering all the wide different ways of shopping with us as well. So it is a new challenge for us as TrustFord. We just need to make sure that, as always, we're putting the customer at the centre of it all.
I guess the challenge is probably even greater for TrustFord, given you've been going through that journey recently with the TrustFord Now products and various kind of offshoots. Trying to speed up the delivery, I guess, for consumers who want to buy and take it away on the day. So is it causing even more of a challenge?
Well, we can deliver TrustFord Now for the used car customer, assuming what they're looking for is available across the groups. The advantage of being a broader group is that there is still significant volume, obviously not to the same levels we would normally experience in a September, but still plenty on offer, and the Bring It To Me Now and the TrustFord Now offer is still there and will hopefully still continue to be there, even though perhaps some of the range is somewhat diminished, but certainly we can still deliver to your home, or you can drive away on the same day. And obviously the TrustFord Now proposition has now moved into other areas such as servicing. So one of the biggest opportunities in the last 18 months has been how we've been developing the mobile service proposition. So taking on board, again, what we learned from last year, that it doesn't need to just be something for our fleet customers, that retail customers are also going to want that choice. So either they can come onto site, or we can come to your workplace or home and fix your vehicle or service your vehicle. So the Now proposition is still very much central to our proposition. In terms of new car, yes, that's going to be a tighter proposition going forward. But certainly for the used range, we can absolutely deliver as we did before.
I think we spoke before about the collaboration, the levels of collaboration, not only between suppliers and retailers, but between retailers themselves. And you said the conversation had been a bit more transparent as people were trying to adapt to, life in COVID and, that period which has earned you guys your AM award, I suppose. Can you tell me a little bit about the conversations that you had as a result of the pandemic that you perhaps not had before? You said, I think you said we were all in it together.
Yes, I think one of the upsides, if there can be such a thing through such a crisis, was that certainly on a couple of the roundtables I was invited onto, there was a real openness around the table, whether it was marketeers or chief executives, talking about the situation we were all in. There was no sense of somebody had experienced that before. It was a brand new experience. So although you weren't getting into the detail of a strategy, everybody was sharing ideas about what could be accelerated, what were the tools that we could use, particularly in that first lockdown where pretty much dealerships were closed unless it was for key workers, frontline. So that's when we started having conversations around, how much we could use, be preparing ourselves for when the doors reopened. So conversations around things like, for TrustFord, making sure we had a way that customers could reserve their vehicles online, and that absolutely was welcomed by a lot of our customers, so they could make sure that that vehicle was ring-fenced for them. Things like click and collect, I think quite a few of us were having those conversations. Use of video, so that we could start ramping up and being ready and able to train colleagues, so that we absolutely could predict that a lot of customers would be uncomfortable about coming in. So it's good to have you here from CitNOW, because absolutely that partnership came to the fore in that period. So it was just sharing and listening to each other, and that was the key thing. And it was like the industry was in it together, as opposed to perhaps the norm where the competitive spirit perhaps kicks in a little bit more in other times.
CitNOW's award the other week, it probably came as no surprise to a lot of people, because I imagine you saw your business accelerate and demand accelerate, hand over fist during the pandemic. The last 18 months must have been extremely busy for anyone who was finding and exploiting, digital ways of communicating with customers.
Yeah, I mean, it's been it's hard, isn't it? Because it's obviously such an awful time that everyone's been through, and we don't want to in any way celebrate it, but it's been interesting to see, people that maybe hadn't adopted video or the latest ways of communicating in the past, because it's not a new thing. Video communication, it's been around for so long, and so many groups out there use it. Thousands of dealers in the UK use it, but I think maybe the people that were slightly behind that curve, it just accelerated their trend towards adopting something like personalised video. So we've worked really closely with as many people as possible. We actually launched a free of charge offer at the end of the first lockdown. So once dealers could open, but only operate remotely. So the only time they would see their customers would be when they were either collecting their car and doing the handover. we launched a free of charge offer for dealers to be able to use our sales solution. So that was something that TrustFord took advantage of, and we worked really closely with Julia's team to kind of implement that. And that really, I think, hopefully helped a lot of people kind of who were maybe a bit nervous about video, maybe hadn't really, really understood it in the past, or it can be a bit of a scary thing. Putting your teams on video and sending that out to customers, and having little control about of the content. So I think that really helped people get over that curve, and actually we saw over 90% of people that came on during that period stay beyond it, because they really saw the benefits. So yeah, it's been a really interesting time, but a good one for remote communication, obviously.
Do you think the consumer's kind of acceptance of video communications is here to stay now as a result of the pandemic?
I think people are more used to it than ever, aren't they? We've all spent the last 18 months FaceTiming our families and friends rather than going and seeing them. So yeah, consumers it'd be interesting to get your thoughts, Julia, but consumers I think are more accepting than ever to have that remote communication, and probably go and seek it without even thinking about it now. Whereas before, maybe it was a bit of a forced thing, or rather the dealers would introduce it to the customer. Whereas maybe now the consumer's the one that's just almost expecting it.
I think it's definitely made a difference, and certainly, I'm privileged enough to see all the 5-star reviews that we get through, and the amount of times we're registering where a consumer, unprompted, is saying, so-and-so sent me a video. It was a complete surprise. They were able to take me around the vehicle, be really transparent about exactly its condition, have the conversation, and that was a key part to the experience. In the same way, and I think that for a lot of customers, the whole experience of shopping through last year will change the way they shop going forward. We definitely had customers who wanted to wait until the dealerships were open again and wanted to go through that traditional experience. But equally, being able to see the feedback coming back from customers, many of them want that blended approach. Time is so precious for everybody. If I've got an opportunity to engage with a sales colleague and see that vehicle, make my decision, then I'll come down, maybe test drive, finish off the purchase from there. But certainly we see it as absolutely core to the customer experience going forward. A lot of people are really welcoming of it. But to your point, it's bringing everyone on that journey and giving the confidence to the colleagues. Some of them have absolutely surprised themselves, I think, in terms of how much they enjoy it. And others need a little bit more help. But it's definitely making a difference in terms of how customers are telling us they've appreciated the experience.
Is this something that staff are sort of acutely aware of now, either in the workshop or out in the showroom, that they're going to have to bring themselves forward and onto a video presentation quite, on a quite regular basis now in order to do their job? It's become a key part of car retail, hasn't it? Sorry, I'll ask that to you.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's, as I said, it just goes back to day-to-day life and what consumers are expecting, and I guess we're all in the business to please our customers, and so if people are expecting that content, then it has to be part of your day-to-day. And another thing that's kind of probably accelerated quicker than we thought is real-time communication, so live comms, and we launched our live video solution as part of the same sales package, something that we kind of talked about and discussed with our customers before, and it was something that we could maybe see working, weren't too sure about, but actually we launched it in March, and the take-up's been terrific. But again, I think that goes back to partly the consumers being happy to accept it. I think if you'd done that maybe a year, 2 years ago, if a sales exec had said to a customer, I want to do a live video call with you, people might have stepped away from that and been a bit shy about it. But now we're also used to communicating remotely, that it seems to be working well.
Yeah, absolutely. And video, I guess, has become a lot larger part of your marketing team's remit as well, Julia. I noticed in the awards entry there was note of quite a few YouTube slots with video features to reach out to customers that look really interesting. Can you tell us a bit about those?
Content's been on our agenda for quite a long time, so we were able to, and it obviously became key to how we kept customers feeling comfortable. We used quite a bit of animation and developed quite a bit particularly ahead of reopening. We spent some time with one of our supply partners creating some animated content to really explain, as everybody was trying to do, to give that reassurance about the safety implications and what that could look like, and particularly in the early days around click and collect. You don't actually need to make physical content. We can make all of this flow easily. So that was key to what we were doing. We've always had a blended approach since we really sort of started pushing hard on our social media agenda. We've been keen to have a whole mix of types of content. So at the heart of it, the colleague stories, the customer stories, which can be created on site and done relatively cheaply and easily, taking content from the sites themselves, telling us about stories that are going on. But we also see a place for professionally produced content, and I've spent a lot of time creating different stories which arguably are more around our brand positioning and how it's all about our people and how our colleagues will drive that standard in customer care. So that was very much part of our agenda. And in more recent weeks, we've been focused on the electric vehicle strategy and looking at how TrustFord can play a part in supporting the manufacturer. So the manufacturer will have all the content and fantastic content around the product itself, but our role is about describing how we're going to help customers on that interesting new phase in our development, because obviously EV is a hot topic. So we felt it was really important that in that instance we're describing to the customer how we are the experts, how we can help answer all the questions around different types of hybrid vehicle, all electric. So there's a place for the different types of content, and we absolutely continue to invest in that space as well.
Has there been a shift in are you doing more video at a time when people are perhaps used to spending more time than ever on their devices and on the internet and things like that?
We certainly look at what the year will look like ahead and try and identify what the key stories are going to be, or the areas where sometimes it's just about refreshing the content and identifying where we need to create something new and different. So certainly that's what we're going through at the moment, and looking at what are the kind of key subjects and topics that are going to be important going into next year. We do invest reasonably significantly in that space. The great thing with video content is that there's more than one place you can put it. Obviously, we tend to start with social media, but it can also be embedded in display advertising. You can embed it into your website. You can use it for internal communication to be able to explain various things. The list's quite long, actually, in terms of how you can, if we're going to invest in it. I'm a Scottish girl, so I'm going to sweat that budget. So, yeah, we always look at how's this going to work across all the different media channels.
Do you get tighter as you go further north, do you think, Julia? Is that a thing?
I'll take the fifth on that one.
I think the audience probably would have a perception that as a top 10 AM100 dealer group that you have a vast marketing team and vast marketing resources, but you were telling us earlier before we started recording about actually it's not a huge scale operation that you're running. Tell us a bit more about that.
There's 19 of us in total. It was a team that was formed back in sort of 2013, 2014, when the business, as it was then, recognised that there was a need to centralise the marketing function. It's a team made up of experts. Everybody's got their own specific role and responsibility. a lot of talent in the team, very, very lucky in that respect. But we also work with professional support agencies, and that's deliberately a blended approach. So, for example, the web provider is a web provider that's used to our industry and works with other automotive clients. But for media, we actually work with a part of Publicis, and that again is deliberate on our part. I'm very keen that as a marketing function, we're understanding not just what's happening in media in our world, but what's happening in the broader world. So by working with one of the largest media operators, then we're able to task them with bringing us up to date with what's happening, what's the next big thing, what's the latest innovation. And that's always really informative. It doesn't mean we'll adopt every single new initiative that's out there, but it gives us an opportunity to broaden the lens, look at what else may be coming, and we're always willing to test things. So there's always a bit of the budget that's set aside for innovation. And that could be, in this year, that was around augmented reality. So we had fun developing a tool around the Mackie. But at other occasions, it's been looking at podcasts and advertising on those. It can be all sorts of different areas, but I'm always keen to see what's coming and keep stretching ourselves to keep trying to innovate and see what the next new opportunity is, but with the customer at the centre of it. So who is it we're trying to reach? How are we reaching them? And of course, media is such a broad thing nowadays, and we're all on a device of some sort. So it's about finding the relevant customer at the relevant time.
Yeah. Well, are there any particular industries that you look at with the most kind of curiosity and think, oh, they're doing really, really interesting things in that sector?
As a team, if we saw something anywhere, then we can flag that back to the media agency or the content agency and say, tell us more about this. And again, it's about working with the right experts, and that could be Google, it can be Facebook, it can be the content agency. So algorithms are changing all the time, so sort of leaning on them for advice and guidance and help us sort of stay ahead in a changing world. Certainly, it can be any size of business. So one of the good things about the agency we work with is they will introduce us to startups, just to give us some insight on things that might be coming into the fore. And as I say, sometimes we'll say, park that at the moment, we'll come back to it, and other times we'll do a bit more digging and start looking to adopt something, at least for a trial to start with.
Okay, cool. And Callum, as a supplier to the industry, what else in the world does CitNOW look at and think, oh, that's interesting, kind of how certain industries are tackling customer communications?
I mean, we're always looking. I guess we're fully committed to just providing the most up-to-date solutions that help dealers, dealer groups, OEMs sell more. I guess that's why CitNOW was born in the first place. So. All these things that we look at and assess throughout the market, whether it's augmented reality and even the structure of networks. So agency models, non-agency models, EV, all that kind of stuff. We're constantly assessing, and the tech team, the dev team are looking at to provide the best solutions possible for our customers.
Okay, cool.
I guess the breadth of CitNOW's offering has already expanded hugely, hasn't it, over the years? I wonder just how flexible the platform and the way people use it is now. Julia was talking about sweating the asset when it came to video and its various uses. So, just how many areas can retailers apply those videos now?
We call it a video video customer life cycle, or you'd have your traditional customer life cycle, but pretty much throughout the whole journey, CitNOW can be involved. At some point, we have our sales application, which we've spoken about, which takes through the decision stage and the delivery stage, but then our workshop after sales solution, which is video communication for retaining that customer once they're in your workshop and having their car serviced with you, but also the research stage. So this is the big part for us over the last year, well, probably 2 years, that has really taken off. Our web solution, which is all about capturing assets, and not necessarily video, images, and 360s. Creating a really easy and straightforward process for retailers to capture those assets as quickly as possible, but also to keep consistency, because I think striving for speed on your online assets can quite often come at the detriment of quality and consistency, but it's vice versa. Consistency can hamper speed. So trying to balance the two out to give retailers the opportunity to make sure that online offering is as strong as possible. And a big thing for us is it was launching our ABGR feature, so automatic background replacement, which again TrustFord use and have rolled out, which is instant background replacement. So when you publish an image online of a used vehicle, quite often you'll see backgrounds dropped in or foregrounds dropped in to make it look like it's taken in a nice field or it's got a lovely background. But that historically, that process adds about 24 to 48 hours onto the time frame from image capture to publish, and that's a long time, and that the car's effectively sat there and is unlikely to be sold without images online. So we partnered with a few businesses and outsourced it to them, but then it was kind of contradicting what we were saying with web about speeding up the whole process. So we went off and we've developed using AI technology, fed all the millions of images through this computer, and it's effectively learned how to cut out a vehicle by itself. So we can now background replace an image within 2 minutes of it hitting our servers. So that's been a big step forward for us, and I think kind of puts us ahead in terms of innovation and in that sector anyway, of the speed and the quality that we can provide when publishing online. But that, I guess, that we've always been video and a video business, but I'd say we're more digital communication, and asset capture has been the next step.
And I guess retailers tend to put the dealership in the background, and they're not saying to customers, send us a picture of your driveway. That's a good idea, isn't it? Yeah. See what the used car will look like actually in the front of your house. I was really keen to hear from Julia about the makeup of the team that you've got really at TrustFord, and exactly the roles that people take on now.
Within the marketing function.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many specialisms, and there's we're talking about augmented reality and AI, and
sure.
How do you establish a team that can cover all the bases in this modern age of covering all the bases? There is no choice, is there, in marketing? You have to be there.
Well, I suppose traditionally, a few years ago, you'd have been looking very much at the kind of core marketing and digital separately. The two are sort of co-joined now. But having said that, the way the talent is divided up is we have obviously the digital team, which will be looking at obviously everything from paid search, digital advertising, website, and how we're keeping the website up to date. We've also got the core marketing side in terms of the campaign planning, what the year ahead looks like, looking at all the different areas of the business. So their responsibilities will be split by business area. So they're sort of the hub, if you like, of the team. So one team member will be looking after sales, Motability, used. Somebody else will be taking responsibility for new commercial vehicle. Obviously, fleet's a big part of our business. So they're coordinating what the 6-month ahead plan to a year plan looks like in terms of campaigns, timings, what we anticipate happening. Some things we know will always be March plate change, September, etc., and other areas a little bit more fluid in terms of what we're going to be talking about or focusing on. We have a very strong CRM team looking at our relationship marketing. We've got a big database because we're a big organisation. And again, from the CRM team working with experts in the industry to help us understand and keep developing and keep pushing. So email's still very core to our marketing strategy in terms of how we talk to our existing database. But we all come together as one team, and one of the, I suppose, upsides of how we've all had to work since March last year is that where we would have maybe had one weekly call, one monthly face-to-face meeting, we actually have a daily call now. The monthly meeting still happens, and that's all about the forward planning and looking at how everybody's performed and where the challenges are and leaning on each other for support. But the daily forum allows everybody to check in on where we are with the longer term planning, but also in our industry where things can happen very, very quickly. It enables us to move fast and be able to change and look at what we're doing and add, if we need to, further investment or switch channels and look at what we need to do to support our operational colleagues. But I think it's really important. One of the key things for us as a team, and absolutely has to be part of the success, is that it's not a team working in isolation. We work very, very closely with our senior operational colleagues. So again, what might have been a monthly call, that's changed as well. So we're having weekly conversations with our senior operators around trading and fleet and commercial vehicle, but also we'll have a separate forum for the after-sales senior team to really just understand exactly what's going on at that moment in time, because we'll have a view from the data that we're looking at, but there's nothing beats those conversations to say, okay, this is what it feels like at the moment. And given that the challenges are ongoing, nothing's the same as it was 2 years ago in many respects. So how do we work together to make sure that we're either dialing up or dialing down? Because what we don't want to do is overwhelm with inquiry that we can't then manage, for example. So I know it's a bizarre thing for a marketeer to be saying, but actually that's how key it is at the moment to make sure that we're totally aligned and understanding and trusting each other. And I think that's been a key and core part of the success in the last couple of years.
And as a business, TrustFord's got a presence not only across mainland UK, but in Northern Ireland and the Channel Isles. And I know your marketing team is based around the country also. So would you actually say that, digital communications has streamlined the way you operate and brought those communications to the fore a bit more easily than they were before?
We were spread out before, and we were used to probably the spider phone in the middle of the desk, whereas now some of the tools that were there and some newer tools that have come along are absolutely come to the fore and ended up more connected than we were before. Absolutely right. We've got operations in Northern Ireland, and some of my team is in Northern Ireland. We've also got obviously the Channel Islands. And again, Channel Islands is a great example of where making sure we speak to the Channel Islands teams every single week, because the nuances, just the pricing's different. There's some things you can't do over there because they just don't exist. So it's important that we're taking our marketing agenda and making sure we're talking to colleagues on the ground to say, does this actually fit with your market? And sometimes it will, and it'll be a perfect segue. And other times we have to say, actually, that's just not going to work in this environment. So what is going to work, and how can we adapt from the existing calendar and change it? And it's always really insightful as well. It's a great education piece. And equally, Northern Ireland, obviously, they don't have the plate change, so we need to think differently at different times of year or adapt and adjust the content to understand their needs. Very strong mobility market there, understanding how we can support that and perhaps give different emphasis in different areas. So whilst we have a core marketing strategy, it's really important we also understand the nuances right across the piece. What's happening. And it'll be interesting to see how that develops over the next year, what's happening in terms of infrastructure, for example, on electric vehicle. may be different in terms of people's needs in the southeast and London, and it may be quite different in other parts of the country. So how do we move and make sure that the content's appropriate for the different markets?
And the different sectors that you're catering for now, in terms of a bit of fast fit and Parts Plus, that's all come to the fore in TrustFord recently as well, hasn't it?
Parts Plus, and obviously their locations has been key to being able to broaden the opportunity. So particularly for our fleet team, having parts operations as far up as Aberdeen means that we can connect that to the mobile service proposition. So that fleet's been massively expanded because obviously we can have a foothold in all of these areas, which means we can now support fleet customers right across the UK, and that's a massive step forward for us, and has been widely welcomed by all of our fleet customers, and in fact creating a lot of interest with prospective fleet customers as well.
I can imagine. I think Julia mentioning about the communications, and how slick they've been. We probably owe an apology to our AIM Awards judges, don't we, really, after that day at Media House.
That was an interesting experience, wasn't it? The first awards judging we've had to do remotely with Tom, myself, and our panel chairman in a room at our office, and everybody else dialing in. But it was quite interesting actually how we had to be quite strict compared to a physical meeting. So it's like, right, it's your turn to say something, and literally kind of work your way through the judges, as opposed to having a natural conversation and debate. But hopefully we'll go back to proper physical kind of meeting judging for 2022.
Yeah, there are certain situations where it's still helpful. I think AIM Awards judging day we found was probably one of those, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But Callum, you know, talking about the TrustFord business diversifying into different areas, perhaps not diversifying, but adding focus in certain areas. Has CitNOW's portfolio of clients grown significantly, in the last 12, 18 months, in the period, of course, that your awards entry accounted for? I guess you must have gained traction in the sector in that period.
Yeah, as I said before, we've had people that have never used video before start using it across their business. So in sales, in after sales, in digital asset capture. Others just in one or two areas. So we have a whole range of customers that some of them only use us in one area of their business and stick to video in that sector, but some of them will use it across the board. It's been a blend really of new customers coming on, whether they're from our existing customer base or brand new to video, totally. We've kind of, I guess, expanded the CitNOW group portfolio as well, bringing dealer web into that, and also Tootle. So we've launched our Tootle part exchange solution, which goes hand in hand with CitNOW sales to hopefully bridge that gap, as we were talking about before, customers operating more remotely and how video engages with that, but it creates another problem with the part exchange process. How are you supposed to, accurately appraise a car early on enough in the process if you're only going to see it when the exchange is happening? We're looking at all areas and how we can help.
I guess that online part exchange process that's emerged has lent itself to, we're seeing, because of the stock shortages, more and more dealer groups are marketing that they want to buy consumers' cars. So that kind of knits together in a way, because you can then take inquiries from consumers who want to sell. You can manage some of that appraisal process online, and then hopefully you don't get the kind of huge surprises when the car eventually comes into the business.
Yeah, and I think it maybe weeds out some of the non-leads that, if you send a campaign out, or if you've got something on your website that says click here to value your car, a lot of people are sat on a Friday night thinking, I'll see how much my car's worth. So they type in their reg, and that creates a lead or a notification for a dealer, but it actually it's not really that. Whereas if you can provide something for them to go a little bit further, provide you with more information, as I said earlier on in the process, then it just makes your operation even slicker, more efficient, and gets rid of the weeds out of those leads.
Yeah.
Good turn of phrase. I noticed in lockdown last year, one of the retailers that we deal with regularly was talking about recruiting and how, you know, the video side of the business had become part of their recruitment process. They were now getting people to record a video as part of their interview or their submission process early on. Is that something you've been familiar with? Is that something, it's not really surprising, I guess, is it, that's now such a vital element?
Yeah, we were saying before, actually, weren't we, that some of the people in our business and in our team we've never met in person, even though they've been in the business for 2 years maybe. I think there's several within CitNOW, and you just have to go. You've only seen them from the waist up and met them online, so you have to go with that. But I think it just goes back to people are just so much more comfortable in that environment, more comfortable than they've ever been. And where CitNOW very first started, I think 10, 12 years ago now, I've probably got that wrong, someone's going to shout at me. But the first concept of CitNOW was live video. So that was the idea, and it was a camcorder plugged into a netbook, and the netbook was in a bag over the sales exec's shoulder. They had a headset on. It was a wired internet connection, and it was a live demo, if you like, around a vehicle. But it didn't really work because, firstly, the sales execs didn't particularly like it because it was live video. It was quite clunky. The connection would fail. It was hard to get people to commit to a time. But also the consumers weren't used to it at all either. So it was a really strange environment for them to be in. Whereas now we do it on every single day. Some days I think I spend 9 to 5:30 on Zooms or Teams, or every slot is taken. So going back to your point about interviewing and hiring and recruiting people, I think it's become the norm. And we've offered within CitNOW, I know in different teams, we've offered positions that to people that we probably wouldn't have in the past based on where they are in the country. So, we have an office up in Stirling, which is our development and technology and product centre, and then our head office in Wokingham. But that's become more varied as well, and people in the Stirling team, if you like, who are based in the Northwest, and I think it's helped that to make sure you're getting the best talent out there, and it's not decided by where they live.
Everyone's become a presenter, basically, haven't they? that constant headache of, do you look at your screen and the faces, which is usually what we do, look at people's faces, or do you look at the camera?
Yeah.
And
or do you look at yourself?
Buzz-eyed,
do you look at yourself when you're on Zoom? That's always a strange thing. If you can see people looking at themselves or other people.
Yeah. Try not to do that. I think it's the best tip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I've got 3 on my team I've yet to meet in person.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that opportunity.
When will you get to do that?
Hopefully in October. We're planning a face-to-face meeting, which will be great. So, but I feel like I know everyone already.
Yeah.
Because obviously from interview through to daily calls, you get to know people.
Yeah.
I met someone on my team for the first time. We'd met previously, but we'd seen each other every day. I think we'd had 2 team calls a day for months, and then we met in person at an event. And Steph said to me, "You look really 3D. You look so strange." But we'd known each other for years previously, but just because we'd seen the 2D version of ourselves on a screen for so long every day, that all of a sudden in person you look odd.
Someone said to you look really 3D?
3D, yeah.
That's a sign of the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think the other thing with video is interesting, where we might have perceived it as being a younger person's channel of choice. Obviously, lockdown, everybody wanted to stay connected with their families, no matter what generation. And that confidence that we've seen in older generations with sort of FaceTime, I think also contributes to how confident people will be going forward in the use of video. And I think some consumers will be expecting it and asking for it, and others will be surprised and delighted by it. So that if you can forward some footage around that vehicle and who you are, and give confidence around who you are as the sales colleague. There's some really interesting, I think it's really interesting technology for going forward, and how useful it can be, both around personalities, but also around the vehicles as well. Yeah. And particularly, again, going back to the EV agenda, I think it'd be really, for those customers that we have that perhaps have renewed their vehicle every couple of years and got to the point where they've stopped doing test drives. Some of them, I think, will want to come back in on site to do test drives, but others will really appreciate the video technology alongside that, in terms of explaining it and giving some of the confidence around the vehicle, and being able to show off what the new vehicles look like, sound like, feel like. And that could be, we've got colleagues already who've done, created footage going out in the Mach-E, and some of them have been really creative in terms of how they've generated that content. But great way of bringing it to life for customers, and really key going forward.
And there was a roller coaster, wasn't there, doing the rounds as well for Ford, going around the UK and giving people an experience of the Mach-E's acceleration at some point.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit jealous. Somebody on my team's already had a go on it, and I've not yet been on it, but in it. But yes, it's an experience we're looking forward to.
Because one thing I'm interested to hear from you both is how the industry can kind of build the fun back in, both for the employees and for customers. Because my kind of perception is the COVID pandemic stripped the fun out. Everybody was worried. Everybody had to adapt really quickly to new ways of working, and I think it's now starting to creep in. But what can you do as businesses to engage your staff to make it a fun and exciting place to be, particularly if they're still working remotely, and also how can you kind of apply that to customers?
Well, in TrustFord's case, initially there was a real push led by Sharon in the HR team, and she heads up the internal comms, to make sure we were making people feel connected and reassured. And we did that in a couple of key ways. One is we have a colleague app, so we can talk to colleagues at any given moment in time. Everybody has it on their phone. They have to, because that's how they're going to see their payslip, because we don't have any paper payslips anymore. But that was really absolutely came to the fore. And obviously early days there was nothing funny or fun going on, but quite quickly we started creating events that anybody could join. So virtual events, fun quizzes, cake baking competitions. They really worked hard as an internal comms team to try and find different levers to pull, to be able to help everyone feel part of the extended family. And then that also cascaded into teams. So we had ridiculous scenarios where team members were giving us challenges to run around the house, and the first one back to their desk with, I don't know, a banana or corkscrew or whatever it was. So that was actually really, really important at that time to help keep everyone connected. And what was quite fun, certainly, it was always in the evening, early evening, and people brought their families. They were colleagues with their, we were getting used to dogs yapping and children crying in the background, but it was lovely to see kids involved in those events as well. But we also had to look at ways of connecting with our fleet customers. We were used to always having a big, day, overnight stay, take them through forthcoming, new developments for our business, and also having some fun, exactly to your point around that's what our industry enjoys, being able to connect and have fun along the way, as well as doing business. So in our case, we put on a wine tasting with Ollie Smith that was virtual.
Oh, wow.
So brilliant. We had a brilliant events manager organising cases of wine to all of the fleet team. Interestingly, the board were really interested in participating in that one as well. And Ollie was fantastic. So we had this virtual wine tasting in the lead up to Christmas, and our fleet customers absolutely loved it. But again, we didn't want them sitting on their own, just sort of knocking back the wines. So partners were invited or friends were invited. And it was just, again, something we'd have never thought of in normal circumstances. But you're absolutely right. It's really key that we're also having fun and engaging moments as well along the way and helping people. One of our principles in TrustFord is enjoy. We want people to enjoy getting up and going to work and feel that it's not just about the hard work. It's also about having fun along the way too.
And I guess that's something that we've got to maintain going forward as well. We've not got to forget that there are people in every business that are going to continue to work from home and could feel isolated. I guess we've still got to keep those lines of digital communication open and engage with everyone in the business and clients, of course.
Yeah, it was quite a serious topic. One of the reasons that it was very important that everybody accelerated the use of technology very, very quickly. So some teams already had, in my case, I was fortunate in my team because the team all had laptops and ways of accessing each other, if you like. But other areas, such as our call centre colleagues, obviously had to be, credit to the IT team. They did a massive job in making sure that people were connected, and then made significant investment, as I'm sure lots of businesses did, to make sure that they can continue to support customers remotely. But that staying connected thread or feeling part of the wider family was key. So even in pretty tough times, we were very focused on, small gestures, but important gestures, whether it was getting Easter eggs to everybody's home or workplace. And again, at Christmas, we knew we couldn't do Christmas parties last year. So it was sort of hampers delivered to dealerships, but also to people's homes, which really did, surprise and I think that all the colleagues were delighted with that gesture coming from the business. And happily, this Christmas, they've already gone out with the announcement. Christmas parties are back on, and there's an allowance for everybody. So people are already chatting about that. So that feels positive, doesn't it? That we can start to look forward to again something that feels a little bit reminiscent of normal times.
Great stuff. We're still waiting for that announcement.
We are. We've got AM Live in November, so that's the big physical event for us to look forward to, and then hopefully there will be some sort of small scale Christmas get together after that.
Yeah, it'd be great to get back to the NEC though.
Even if it's just me and you with the Subway, Turkey Subway.
Sounds like AIM Awards pigeon day again.
Yeah. Callum, see it now. What have you done as a business to keep all your staff engaged? Sort of even now that business is kind of getting back to normality.
Yeah, as an employee, I have to say CitNOW have been fantastic. The exec team and the HR guys have been done a fantastic job. I think we're more connected than ever, and I think we feel more like a family than we ever have done. So we use Slack. We don't use Teams. We use Zoom and Slack to communicate. So that was a huge thing. Plenty of channels being set up throughout the whole, over the last 2 years that maybe are not entirely business related, like TV and film recommendations or food recommendations. I think there's a pet picture channel. But also online events that were kind of put on by the company that everyone could join in and just have a bit of fun, really. The famous Zoom quizzes that came out of lockdown, plenty of Zoom quizzes. But also, more business related things is Alistair, CEO, or Jeffrey, our chairman, started a monthly company webinar, which we'd never had before, but I think it was something that had been, people had fed back, and I think it almost gave us the chance to deliver, and that's been really successful. It's just an hour every month where Alistair and Jeffrey sit through and talk through different topics, take questions directly, and for a smaller business with not loads of people, that intimacy I think is really important, and more important than ever coming out of the situation that we've been in. And we did have the loo roll Olympics as well, which I don't know whether I should go into too much, but
yeah, come on, you can't say that and not elaborate.
We had a bit of a competition that somebody who I won't name came up with, where you had to do the most elaborate sporting tied event with loo rolls in your home that you possibly could. Film it. Obviously, we're a video business, so put it on video and then upload it to Slack, and the amount of likes or the amount of scores that you got. Or emojis attached to it, I think it was, then kind of gave you a bit of a score. So, and then you nominated someone else to do it. So
Fantastic.
there were certain people that you wouldn't dare nominate, but most people had a good go at it.
Was there a winner of this event, Callum?
I can't remember actually. There must have been a winner. I'll find out for you. But
I thought we were going to have a grand.
There were some good entries. No, there definitely wasn't.
The best toilet roll jumper in the world.
I think I did something with. I ended up chipping chipping loo rolls in my golf club into a bucket.
Okay.
But there were a few other good ones with, very, very inventive. But it was just a real bit of fun. And again, people that you maybe wouldn't have interacted with so much in, outside of a work environment previously, all of a sudden, you see them in their home element and get to know them a bit better without actually being there with them. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel with Armchair Marketing to follow us, or head to the AM website to do so also. We'll be back every month with news, insight and further interviews from the automotive sector.